Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Princeton, where in our open and welcoming community, we live our message of hope, love, justice, and joy. Whether you've joined us here in Channing Hall or live on Zoom, we're glad that you're here, and it's great to be together this morning. If you're visiting us and you haven't already, we invite you to stop by our newcomer table right out there in Robinson Lounge so that we can learn more about what brings you to UU Princeton and get you any information that you'd like about our congregation this morning. And welcome to our flower celebration service. This is a tradition here and in many UU congregations across the country. If this is your first one, you're going to love it. If you brought a flower to share, we'll ask you to bring it on up to one of the vases during the greeting that we'll have in the service in just a few minutes. And if you didn't bring a flower, we have plenty, so please still join in during that part of the service. Happens later on. We'll go into all of that as the service unfolds. And after the service, we ask all of our members to stay right here in Channing Hall so that we can go into our annual meeting. We'd love to jump right into that, so please stay where you are after the benediction and postlude. Following that, all are invited to a dedication of our land and people acknowledgement marker outside in front of the building. It was just placed there this week. It's right next to the peace pole, and we'll have a brief ceremony of dedication right after the annual meeting. And then it's picnic time, so stay for the picnic. We'll enjoy one another's company and this beautiful day as we celebrate our year together. Our another announcement is Happy Pride Month. Princeton Pride is coming soon on June 17th. The third annual parade will be marching down Witherspoon Street and gathering for a party and a fair next to the Princeton YWCA. All are welcome to walk with our congregation's Rainbow Ministry group, representing UU Princeton in our pride and advocacy for the LGBTQIA community. You can join up with the UU Princeton marchers at 10:30 on that Saturday, June 17th, in the municipal driveway closest to the church. Or if you don't want to march but want to go to the party, stop by the booth, the Rainbow Ministry booth at the Pride Fair itself on Paul Robeson Place. Again, that is Saturday, June 17th. Starting at 10:30 is when we'll meet here. And now with mind and heart, may we turn in reverence toward the one light that offers each sunbeam, the one breath that fills each body, and the one fire that lights each spark. Come as many and one in this place where all are welcome, all are loved, and all are growing. Let us worship together.
Beloved community is formed not by the eradication of difference, but by its affirmation, by each of us claiming the identities of cultural legacies that shape who we are and how we live in the world. Bell Hooks. This past Tuesday, I took a huge leap. I quit my job. Yay! I've mentioned this job in many a reflection. It's a job I loved, teaching musicianship at a prestigious conservatory, the Peabody Institute of Music. But it was in Baltimore, which meant I had to make a 5-hour round-trip journey twice a week and stay overnight on Mondays. This was not great for my family. My poor husband had to manage 2 kids and 1 dog 3 out of 5 weekday mornings, and my daughter constantly and understandably guilted me about not being at home. I hated missing that Monday night bedtime and worried nonstop about whether or not I'd get into traffic, or worse yet, a car accident, on I-95 each time I made the drive. This was a very difficult decision for me, as I'd been at Peabody for nearly 20 years. I taught musicianship there for a combined 14 years and then ran the new music ensemble for 5 years. And giving up a full-time salary seemed ill-advised in this economy. However, the emotional, psychological, and physical toll it was taking on me far outweighed the financial benefits of the job. The hardest thing about the decision, though, is losing my Peabody community. Over the years, I formed close relationships with many colleagues and have so enjoyed teaching such talented students. I calculated how many kids I've worked with over the years. It's nearly 1,600. This absolutely shocked me, but there's no wonder I have so many fun and funny memories of my students. as well as some really gross ones, like the time a student came to class in his boxer shorts. He was wearing a shirt too, but it was really weird. Anyway, the following year, I implemented a dress code into my syllabus. I will truly miss every single person with whom I had positive interactions at Peabody. Heck, I'll even miss the ones with whom I didn't have positive interactions, like the students who decided showing up to class was far inferior to sleeping in, or for whom doing homework was optional. No community can ever be replaced, but new ones can be built. What am I going to do with my time now that I've quit that job, you might ask? Well, I'm going to start teaching private violin in and around the Princeton area. www.courtneyorlandoviolin.com. I've already started building a studio of lovely students ranging in age from 3 to 43, and it is a completely different experience than what I'm used to. Teaching one-on-one is intense in a way that teaching a class of 20 isn't. Each individual student has different needs and goals that need to be met. Not that my classroom students didn't have individual needs and goals, but when you're teaching multiple students at a time, they need to land on a middle ground. In other words, there's one curriculum for those 20 students, regardless of their skill level. So the challenge of the job is keeping the more advanced ones busy while not over-challenging the less advanced students. Teaching individual lessons to 20 students means there are 20 different curricula, as each student has their own time allotment during which I teach them their own personal repertoire. So it's a lot to keep track of. Then there are the parents. It was extremely rare for me to deal with parents at the college level. Every once in a while, I'd get a nasty email from a parent who was unhappy with their child's grade. I'd then have to write to them to let them know that their child was wasting their money by not showing up to class and doing the work that was required of them. Thankfully, those emails were few and far between. With private students, you interact with parents on a weekly basis. In addition to keeping the students happy, you need to keep the parents happy. So there's a huge, intricate web of people that I'm trying to keep satisfied, which for a perfectionist like me is truly daunting. That being said, I already feel a sense of community building in this intricate web. I'm really enjoying meeting new people and getting to know their likes, dislikes, strengths, weaknesses, and quirks. It's fun hearing about their lives outside of lessons, their favorite subject in school, their pets, where they're going on vacation this summer. I enjoy coming up with new teaching techniques and new repertoire for them to try out. Most importantly, I already feel that I truly care about my students and their families, and I also feel cared for, not just for my expertise, but for what I have to offer on a personal level. It's this lovely exchange of making a difference in each other's lives and of strengthening each other's lives. I feel very at home in it, and I'm happy to be home while doing it.
Once upon a time, a traveler stumbled across an old lamp on the side of the trail. He picked it up and rubbed some of the dirt and mud away so that he could get a better look at it. And wouldn't you know that a magical genie popped out of the lamp, as they tend to do in stories like this. It was a magical lamp with a genie in it, sitting right there in the mud on the side of the trail. The genie stretched her arms over her head and stood straight and tall and thanked the man for freeing her. She had been traveling in the bag of someone else when her lamp fell out. The other person didn't even notice. She had been in her lamp home in the mud for quite a while and had started to worry that no one would ever find her. She told the traveler, "Well, you know what's next. I grant you some wishes. Normally you'd get to make 3 wishes and I'd make them all come true, but I'm so grateful to you that you get 4 wishes, and think them through before you make them, because 4 is all you get." And the traveler first thought of his friend back home who was worried about losing his job. Everything in his life felt tenuous. He was stressed, wasn't sleeping well, and things looked pretty bad. And the traveler thought about wishing for hope for this friend of his. And then the traveler thought of his neighbor who was always alone, kind of shy, had trouble making friends. The neighbor was kind and generous, but quiet, seemed lonely, but wanted connection. And he wished for this neighbor love. And then the traveler thought of the people he had come across working in the fields a few days ago. They worked all day for almost no money. And when the fields were harvested and there was no more work to do, they had to move on. They lived very difficult and unfair lives, and he wished for them more justice. And lastly, he thought of his sister, who was grieving a great loss in her life, and how he wished that happiness would find her again. He wished for her joy. He took a moment to make sure that these were what he really wanted to wish for before telling the genie, I wish for hope, love, justice, and joy in the world. These are my 4 wishes, and if you grant them, it'll make many lives much better. The genie was moved by the selflessness of the traveler's wishes. She closed her eyes and said some words before pulling a small pouch out of her pocket and giving it to the traveler. Here are your wishes, she said, and they've been granted. The traveler opened the pouch to see 4 seeds sitting at the bottom. I don't understand, he said. These are seeds, not hope, love, justice, and joy. Yes, the genie replied, those are the seeds that contain those gifts. You have to plant them, nourish them, and bring them to life. I provide the seeds, and with the sun and soil and rain, you do the rest. And so off the traveler went, carrying his magic seeds with him, thinking about how and when he would plant them to bring hope, love, justice, and joy to the world. This general magic lamp fable, which I've made particular to us this morning, came to mind earlier this week when I was looking at a draft of our congregation's annual report, where all of our many ministries give brief summaries of our efforts over the year. So many seeds of hope, love, justice, and joy were sown by the members and friends of our congregation. So many small and large acts of kindness and compassion, so many expressions of love and justice. In so many ways, we've woven our lives together, not only within our congregation, but more broadly in our community, bringing the values that we hold dear to life in the world. We've chosen again and again over this year to shape the world we live in. We are not passive before that which ought not to be, but active in reshaping a world so that it's more just and merciful and humble. We get active and we work and we play and we learn and we teach. We make mistakes and we get some things wrong, but we get the important stuff right. And some of what we do happens very quickly, and some of what we do takes a very long time. But when we finish something quickly, we move on to another act of love and compassion. And when something takes longer than we had hoped, we just bear down and keep right at it. Here at UU Princeton, we live in a legacy of people before us who did the same thing in their ways, in their days. We've said goodbye to many of them this year, and this year and last, and these have been tough and tender goodbyes. But even those moments of grief have been lightened by the caring ministries of our congregation. And they've pointed us again and again to sacred memory and the love that abides, and an awareness that we each will one day leave a legacy. And we hope that ours is as loving and tender as those people we miss every day, but especially on these days, like our flower celebration. We look at the faces of these flowers and remember their beauty and their gifts, their passions, and all of that is sacred. We celebrate our flower communion today in the spirit of Reverend Norbert Capek, who originated the ritual in Prague in 1923. He did so to bring the beauty of diversity to life during difficult times and to weave the members of his congregation together in appreciation of one another's gifts. He wanted something visible and tactile. This was a heady and learned congregation, and he wanted a ritual that relied on a beauty not of the mind and on an exchange not of opinions. So he thought of flowers, created not by people, but enjoyed by us, and with various beauties that resonate both uniquely and collectively. So he asked each person to bring a flower to the service that they would randomly exchange with someone else during the service, which is what we will soon do. And we do it to remind ourselves of what the Prague congregation learned and knew 100 years ago, that diversity is a holy gift. It is cause for curiosity and celebration, and it reflects freedom, which is God's greatest gift and wish for all people. On this 100th anniversary of the first flower ceremony, we find that we do need these reminders again, as suspicions of diversity surge as they cyclically do, and we who stand in the midst of love find ourselves facing winds of intolerance and cruelty. as our ancestors did 100 years ago. May we receive our flowers today, not only in appreciation of their beauty and in commitment to the message they sung then and sing now, that each is different, each is beautiful, each is holy, and each is loved, and that each is free to be just exactly who they are, without oppression and without judgment. For this is the sacred design of flowers in a field and fish in a stream and birds in the air. This is the sacred design of people in the world, gathered in appreciation of the beauty there and the beauty everywhere, gathered in hope, love, justice, and joy, that we might remember those values more fully in the larger world, gathered in love and growing together and giving the world in gratitude all that we can offer. Let us celebrate our flower ceremony in honor of Reverend Capek and the Prague congregation who gave us this ceremony 100 years ago. We will begin with Reverend Capek's own words as they are printed in your gray hymnal. I invite you to turn to number 723 in the back. And I invite you to read Reverend Capek's prayer with me. In the name of Providence, which implants in the seed the future of the flower, and in our hearts the longing for people to live in harmony. In the name of the highest, in whom we move, and who makes the mother and father, the brother and sister, lover and loner what they are. In the name of sages and great religious leaders who sacrifice their lives to hasten the coming of the age of mutual respect. Let us renew our resolution sincerely to be real siblings, regardless of any kind of bar which estranges us from one another. In this holy resolve, may we be strengthened, knowing that we are God's family, that one spirit, the spirit of love, unites us, and endeavor for a more perfect and more joyful life. Amen. And at the end of our hour, we extinguish our chalice, knowing that its light carries us until we meet again. Go forth grateful for the moments before you, the breath within you, the people among you, and the Spirit guiding you toward lives of love and kindness. And go forth knowing that you are held always and always with everyone else by that great love of no beginning and never ending. Go in peace, and amen.